الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين كالمبتدع والمشركين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين ثم ما بعد ونسأل الله جل وعلا أن يجعلنا من الذين يستمعون قولا فيتبعون أحسنا اللهم آمين. إن شاء الله تعالى أيها الإخوة وأخوات, for the time that's remaining, we want to give some nasiha as relates to wujub tarbiyya abana, or the obligation of cultivating our children. And as we see in our day and time, many of the parents have become mutasahil, or easygoing and lenient as it relates to this issue of educating and cultivating their children. Upon the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ala fahm as-salaf as-salih ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een. Indeed, we are reminded of many ayat of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it falls on deaf ears as though there's not going to be a standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as though we're not going to be held accountable for that which takes place in our homes. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said in his famous statement that is well known, he said, "Hasibu anfusikum qabla an tahasabu, wazinu anfusikum qabla an tuzanu." Take yourselves to account before you're taken to account, and weigh your deeds before your deeds are weighed. For indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us in His book, أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسِكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. We have heard this ayah over and over again from the manabir, from the du'at of Ahl Sunnah, climbing the manabir upon the minbars, reciting this ayah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسِكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. Or you believe, save yourselves and your family. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ, from a fire whose fuel is many stones. How many of us contemplate upon this particular ayah? How many of us actualize this particular ayah? For indeed, the mufassirin of the Quran, like Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatun wasi'ah, he brings the narration of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Apart from one of the meanings that are ma'na of this particular ayah, أعملوا بطاعة الله عز وجل واتقوا معصية الله عز وجل, يعني that one should act upon the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fear disobeying Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he goes on, he mentioned, وَمَرُوا أَوْلَادُكُمْ بِامْتِثَالَ أَوَامِرْ وَاجْتِنَابُ النَّوَاهِي فَذَلِكُمْ وَقَايَتُهُمْ مِنَ النَّارِ. انظر يا عبد الله. يعني Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he goes on, he mentioned maru awladukum, that he command your children imtithal awamir, to carry out what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon them, and to prohibit them what Allah has prohibited upon them, and for them to stay away from what Allah has prohibited upon them. And he said, فَذَلِكُمْ وَقَايَتُهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. This is a protection. This is a protection for them from the hellfire. This is a protection for them from the hellfire. Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan, Allah yahfadhu, may Allah Azza wa Jal preserve him and give him a long life upon obedience. He said, آية يدل على أن مطلوب من الإنسان أن يعمل بما يبعده أهله من النار. He mentioned this particular ayah, يدل على أنه مطلوب, that this particular ayah, it shows that insan should act upon that will distant them or distant in his family from the hellfire. They should act upon those things that would distance them and him and his family from the hellfire. This is what this ayah shows you, Abdullah. To act upon those things that's going to distance you from the hellfire, distance your family from the hellfire. For indeed, the parents of mas'uleen, they are those who are responsible for their children. As Nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال كلكم راعًا وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. That all of you are ra'an. All of you are shepherd, you are guardians over your flock. You're responsible for your flock. You're responsible for your children. You're responsible for the upbringing and the cultivation of your children. But indeed, our children has become a fitting for us. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the Quran, as Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he said that our children are like the money. Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he mentioned one of his muhadara, he said our children is like the money. Al-mal wa banun zinatul hayat ad-dunya wal baqiyatul salihatul khayru 'inda rabbika thawaban wa khayran amala. خد بالك. He mentioned al-mal wal banun zinatul hayat ad-dunya. Yani the wealth and the children are adornment of this worldly life. But the good righteous deeds that last are better with your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala for reward. Are better with your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala as related to reward. وَزَيِّنِ النَّاسِ حُبَّ الشَّهْوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ. Yani beautify for men is love of things they convert. Women and children. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةً. Indeed, your wealth and your children is a trial for you. Indeed, your wealth and your children is a trial for you. Why are they a trial for us, Ya Abdullah? Because they take us away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We become weak to our children to allow them to commit fahisha. We spend our own wealth for them to commit fahisha, lewd acts. We assist them in lewd acts, buying them DVDs with movies, or getting them Netflix. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُلْهِكُمْ أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم. Or you believe, do not let your properties وأموالكم or your money وأولادكم or your children divert you from and ذكر الله, divert you from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Divert you from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Whoever does that, then they are the losers. They are the losers. So know for a surety, Ya Abdullah, wa Amatullah, our children can be a fitting for us. But it's upon the parents, and awwalan, to be concerned about their tarbiyah. Many of the Anbiya and the Rusul, they concern themselves with their children. They were constantly of those who made dua for their children. As we find in one of the ayahs with Zakaria made dua for his child. وهناك الدعاء زكريا ربه قال ربي هب لي من لدنك من ذريتي طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء إنك سميع الدعاء. At that time, Zakaria invoked his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, قال ربي هب لي من لدنك ذريتي. So my Lord, grant me from you a good offspring. Before what? Before the child even comes. Grant me good offspring. You are indeed the all-hearing, or the hero of the dua. You are the hero of the dua. How many of us, before we're about to consummate with our wives, are supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Supplicating to Allah Azza wa Jal, to Allah Azza wa Jal protect our child from the shaitan. Protect our child from the shaitan. How many of us? Who knows the dua? تفضل يا أخي. نعم تفضل. نعم أحسنت. اللهم جنبنا shaitan. Oh Allah, turn the shaitan away from us. Turn the shaitan away from us. And turn the shaitan away from that which will want to provide for us. This is important. Ad-du'a is important. Supplicating to Allah Azza wa Jal to keep the harm from our children. Raising a righteous child has benefits. Number one, you'll be in alignment with obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obeying Allah Azza wa Jal to save yourself and your family from a fire whose fuel is many stones. And it has merits when you die. As Nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned about one of the ni'mah of raising a righteous child. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ, that when the children of Adam, when they pass away, when they die, and قَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ, all of his actions are cut off except for three. Sadaqah jariyah, that ongoing sadaqah, or ilm yantafa' bih, or beneficial knowledge, or walid salih yad'u lahu, and a righteous child that supplicates for him. And a righteous child that supplicates for him. But if the child does not have a proper tarbiyah, knowing their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, how are they supposed to supplicate or know to supplicate? How do they know how to supplicate? Except you ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for the hidayah, the guidance for your child. How many of us ask Allah Azza wa Jalla for hidayah for our child morning and evening, every day? Morning hidayah for your child. For indeed, many of the people do not take the asbab or the means for guiding their children. And of course we know that hidayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they mentioned that hidayah, nu'an, of two types. Ma ya'arif. Who knows the two different types of hidayah, of guidance? Fadl. Ahsant. Al-hidayah, al-irshad. That hidayah that you direct the individual, you guide the individual And this is we all are capable of doing this. That with our children, with their tarbiyah, with their cultivation and their education, this is the type of hidayah we're supposed to be upon. Irshad. Showing the proofs and evidence from the book of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and the Sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Indeed, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the Quran, إِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Well, you guide to the straight path. But the ultimate hidayah, min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only Allah Azza wa Jalla is capable of doing. The hidayah of qabul, acceptance. As Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the Quran, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Well, you cannot guide those whom you love. But Allah Azza wa Jalla guide whom He will, subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ عَلَيْكَ إِلَّا بَلَاغ. It's not upon you except to convey. It's not upon you except to convey. So خطوات عملية تربية الأبناء, from the steps of educating or cultivating our children. نبدأ أولا بإصلاح النفس. That we begin with إصلاح النفس. Rectification upon ourselves. Correcting ourselves. As we mentioned in the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. All you who believe, save yourselves and your family from a fire whose fuels amid the stars. Allah Azza wa Jalla began in the particular ayah with yourself firstly. Why is that important? Because the children, لِأَنَّهُمْ هُمْ قُدْوَةٌ, because they are the examples, you are an example for your children. وَأَوْلَادُ يُقَلِّدُونَ أَبَاهُمْ وَأُمَّهَاتُهُمْ. Because the children, they blindly follow their parents. They follow their parents. So it's important that we show an example as being parents. That means men. We establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our homes. That we are men that establish salah in the jama'ah. We come to the masajid. And if you have boys, you bring the children to the masjid with you. Because in the masajid, the most beloved places to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the most hated places to Allah Azza wa Jalla are the aswaq, are the marketplaces. That we showed ihtiram for our wives, respect and honor for our wives. We showed the importance of talab al-ilm. As Nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. That seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. So you show your son or your daughter the importance of seeking ilm. And not just seeking ilm, but practical application in your home, implementing it. Reading the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ and implementing the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. For indeed your children are going to follow right behind you. But if we're one that had toxic homes, that we're arguing, debating, and cursing, you're going to produce a toxic child. And some of us get mad when our children act up in terms of cursing, in terms of fighting, in terms of not having ihtiram, respect for one another. But as there's a saying, that don't get mad at the child who's dancing to the drummer's beat. You're the one that's playing the drum in the house. You're the one that's playing the drum in the house. Then you get mad at the child for dancing at the drummer's beat. You're getting upset with your child for dancing with the drummer's beat, but you have the stick and the animal skin over the wood and beating the drum, and you're mad at the child for dancing at the drummer's beat. الثانيا اختيار الزوجة. Choosing a right spouse, a good spouse, a righteous spouse. Choosing a righteous woman. That woman, and it's also to go for choosing a righteous man. But that woman, who's upon the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that woman who's upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that woman that implements the book of Allah and implements the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not that you have so much in common and then she's in compliance with everything that relates to the dunya. Because we marry a woman according to what? Our desires. Not according to deen. The Prophet ﷺ, what he recommended? What? Marry one for the deen, you'll be successful. So when you're going to choose a mate, choose that woman for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deen. And always advise the brothers. Because many times we are not doing full investigations when we marry the person. It's also go for the woman when you marry a man. We're not doing full investigations. We're looking at outward appearance, or maybe looking at a job that the person may possess, the wealth. We're not looking at the akhlaq. We're not looking at, does she understand aqeedah? Does she understand la ilaha illallah? Does she understand Muhammad Rasulullah? Does she know how to make a salat? Does she know some supplications? Because this tells you what she's busy herself with. If she has an Instagram account, if she has a Facebook account, and this also go for the man also. Does she have a Twitter account? You go on these accounts, you can see exactly how her akhlaq is. You can see exactly how her akhlaq is. You can see those things that she's inclined towards. She may be inclined towards music, comedians, etc. So how your tarbiyah is going to be with the child? You want to marry an individual this way? You want to look out from the future of your child before anything happens. Meaning before any type of marriage happens. Any type of intimacy happens. Na'am. So with this child, of rearing this child, the issues of the deen, ikhwa barakallahu fikum, is we're always going to go back to that. Are extremely important. So we must rear the child upon the tawheed. The tawheed is the asas. We hear this in the Masjid of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah over and over again. The issue of tawheed. Tawheed is important. All of the Anbiya and the Rusul came with a tawheed. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Brought us into every ummah a messenger proclaiming to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla, to avoid the Taghut. So the issue of Tawheed is extremely important because it's the asas of the religion. And if one is not established upon their Tawheed, his foundation, if the foundation is not correct, then everything else is going to be corrupt. Our Shaykh Hassan bin Abdul Wahhab al-Banna, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatan wasi'ah, he mentioned about the issues, the affairs of Tawheed. He said, Ahlul Bid'ah wa Ahwa wa Ahlul Zayd, the people of innovation. They say the people of Sunnah, they don't talk about those issues of raqa'iq, the soft heartness, the heart softness, to soften your heart, tazkiyah, purification of the soul. This shows that the people of innovation don't understand the issue of Tawheed. If you read that child upon the Tawheed, teaching him the asma' wa sifat, the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, التوحيد الألوهية, التوحيد الربوبية, the Tawheed al-asma' wa sifat. عند أهل السنة والجماعة, this child learns about the names and attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah Azza wa Jal is a Raqib, Allah Azza wa Jal is Samir, Basir, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this child actualizes this aqa'id in their chest, where you find him giving himself into ghiba, backbiting, where you find him giving himself to naniba, carrying tales, where you find this child giving himself to want to fornicate, or curse his parents, or do any type of fahisha. La wallah, because the aqa'id penetrates the heart. When you find him want to imitate the kuffar. La wallah, because the aqa'id penetrates the heart. It's purification for the heart. But when you stray away from teaching these affairs to your child, and that foundation is not strong, then you're going to find the one to imitate the kuffar. You're going to find upon the fahisha. You're going to find upon these acts of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because not giving importance to the affairs of a tawheed. Luqman alayhi salam, he advised his own child, Ya bunayya, la tushrik billah, inna shirk ladhumun azim. Yani, ya bunayya, oh my child, oh my son, do not make shirk with Allah. Inna shirk dhulm. Advise his own child with this. What is dhulm? Wudu' shay fi ghayri mawdi'. Putting things in the improper place. You teach your child that shirk is in his improper place. And you will find that child upon the correct aqeedah, and he will be upon his heart will be firm. He will not want to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other affair is while they're young, is giving importance to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran. Nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best amongst you is the one who learns the Quran and he teaches it. For our awlad, while they're young, this is something that you should install in them, is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, the book of Allah azza wa jal, tutma'inna qulub. It brings forth tranquility in the hearts. It brings humbleness to the person. The ulama of the past, they were those who learned the Quran at a young age. Imam al-Shafi, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatul wasi'ah, he learned the Quran when he was 7 years old. Memorized the book of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. Al-Hafiz Ibn Nawawi, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatul wasi'ah, memorized the Quran at the age of 10. But Ibn Taymiyyah memorized the Quran before he reached puberty. So we're of our children. And one that which distinguishes Philadelphia from many cities in America is that they have generations of Muslims here. So how are our children with the book of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala? You have generations of Muslims and many of them don't know Juz Amma. Haqiqatan. This is the reality of the state of affairs. But the book of Allah azza wa jal will cause tranquility in their hearts. Will raise them darajat in Jannah. But when we see what is important is to give them those things that take them away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa a'yadhu billah. الثالثة وتربيته على طاعة الله عز وجل. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله بهذه الدعوة صلاة القائمة. نعم. الثالث, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he mentions here, تربيته على طاعة الله عز وجل وعلى طاعة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Yani cultivating your children to be upon the obedience of the message to Allah Azza wa Jal and the message sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He mentioned that it's wajib ala walidain. This is obligatory upon the parents to cultivate them upon this. Because the obedience to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, we must cultivate our children to know about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah view the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not like Ahl al-Bid'ah wa Ahwa wa Ahl al-Zayr. That we take the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam very serious, and we take lying upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam very serious, and we take implementing everything the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said very serious. Teach them to have love for the Prophet ﷺ, the Muhammad Rasul wa ta'atu fima amr. Obedience to what he has commanded. Wa tasdiquhu fima akhbar. And believing everything that the Prophet ﷺ has informed us with. Everything that the Prophet ﷺ has informed us with. وَاجْتِنَابَ مَا نَهَى عَنْهُ وَزَجَرَ. And staying away from everything that the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited upon us. وَأَلَّا يُعْبَدُ اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَرْعًا. And we don't worship Allah Azza wa Jal except upon the legislation, except that which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come with. We have to rear our children upon this. That in the affairs of our life, that we return back to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rearing them upon this. And as well as teaching them to love the ulama and respect the scholars. To love the ulama and respect the scholars. As Sheikh Salih Fawzan he said, this is a matter that is important. Because this particular matter of loving the ulama safeguard them. It safeguards them because they return to Ahlul Ilm. As Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge when you don't know. So when they have affairs in their life, they know to return to Ahl al-Ilm. And they have ihtiram for Ahl al-Ilm, respect for the people of knowledge. So we teach them about the status of the likes of Sheikh Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, wa Sheikh Ubayd, wa Sheikh Abdullah al-Bukhari, and other than them from the Imam of Ahl al-Sunnah fi asrina in our day and time. Because this will be their murji', their returning points. And teach them how to sit in front of a scholar. No, we don't have the ulama in our country, but we have tulab al-ilm. Some tulab al-ilm mutamakkin. The likes of Sheikh Hassan Somali, Abu Hassan Malik. Teach them how to sit in front of them. To have a pen and paper. To sit directly in front of, not in the back. Not leaning against walls if they don't have no problem with their backs. Teach them how to ask a question. And when they ask questions, to answer questions. To get involved in talab al-ilm. But the issue is, ayyuhal akhwa wa akhawat, if we're not implementing it, how we expect our children to? If we're not showing the importance of talab al-ilm, and ihtiram for the ulama, and respect for the scholars, how do we expect our children to? This is part of saving ourselves and our family from the fire. So we have a salat on our heels. We will end with that. Just a little reminder for the brothers and the sisters. هذا ما عندي وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبي محمد وجزاكم الله خيرا.